authorizing Bricker and Eckler LLP to represent the board in legal proceedings regarding the repeal effort. May I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
With a motion and a second, actually I think I keep this one myself. I've been in contact with our legal counsel on, in discussion about the repeal that is currently on the ballot. And, they thought that if, in the case that there are points of law that need to be made about that, and don't know what those might be, that, we would be appropriate to specifically authorize Bricker and Eckler to do this, to do any work that needs to be done in that case. This is not about campaigning or anything like that, but it is solely about points of law relative to an appeal, or to the repeal, since it is a different construct than we've ever used. It is not a levy, it is not a bond issue, it is a ballot issue, and also in conversation with legal counsel that there is no violation of law in us authorizing legal counsel to be available to take any points about legal action or about legal points around the repeal effort. So that's the reason we bring this to the table. It's only so that they're there in case we need them around this particular topic. And then the subsequent effort would be, or the subsequent item 13.03 is around the OSBA Legal Assistance Fund. That actually, to one of the points that we made when we got involved with the Legal Assistance Fund, is if there's a point in the future where there is a legal topic that is relevant to multiple districts in the state, that the Legal Assistance Fund may be there to offset some of those costs. So that's the reason I'm bringing this forward tonight, both 13.02 and 13.03. So with that being said, I guess, and members of the board, any questions for me? Maybe Dr. Good? Did I not bring forward? I got a motion second. Yes. Just on the first, this is a motion on the first one. Any questions?
Oh, I just want clarification.
Sure.
So the purpose is to, what now?
The purpose is to authorize our legal team at Bricker and Eckler to be available, to be available in case there are any points of law questions about the repeal. So this is not about authorizing them to campaign on our behalf, on the behalf of the school district or anything like that. It is solely giving them the ability to intervene if there are points of law that need to be argued around the repeal.
But why would we be asking legal counsel, why would we spend money, taxpayers' money, to determine whether we're going to be voting when the taxpayers have the right to do that? Why would we use our money from taxpayers to...
It's a good question, Dr. French. The reality of it is that, this issue on that, has been posed to the ballot, or the signatures have been approved, will impact our revenue, if it were to fail, or not sure the right words to use in the case of repeal. If the repeal were to be voted in the affirmative, it would impact our revenue by about $15 million. So it has a direct impact on the viability and the revenue stream of the district. And so if there are questions and points of law about it, that, the district, I would, and this is why it's bringing to the board here to make a determination as the board represents the district, if the board wants to be able to appropriately, participate in any of those discussions around points of law.
Well, since I just got this at 1 o'clock today, my question is, I'm still asking questions, I guess. Why, we've never approved Bricker and Eckler to do anything specific in the past because we gave that blanket, in January. Why would we stop the citizens, doing what?
Well, no, I think it's a good question, Dr. French, and one that I had a discussion specifically with legal counsel why we would do that. And the reality was because the majority of what Bricker and Eckler does for us is it's a similar type of work all the time, right? And this is something that is somewhat unique in there, so they figured from the state of the district that it would be better to have specific authorization to be able to represent the district in this case, in case there was any questions. So that it really takes away any point of question as whether the Board of Education authorizes that kind of expenditure.
I asked the same question, and my understanding is that it's an effort to be more transparent. We could have just used them because it's been authorized and voted on, as you said, but in an effort to be transparent in terms of what we use them for. That's why this resolution has come forward.
I look at this as a very personal, like if it were my home and I was being attacked from the outside and being asked to take a major decrease in our family income, when I thought there was potentially things that I could look at to make a difference in that income, I would probably make sure I looked at legal counsel for that. And I think it's in our rights as a district to protect our finances in our district. If there's a way for us to look at it and support legal counsel in order to make that happen. So I would do it at home, and I'm going to do it here in our district. I think it's the right thing to do.
Well, I don't, because here we are asking, we're using taxpayers' money to fight taxpayers. It doesn't add up.
Well, let's clarify. We're not fighting taxpayers.
Yeah, this isn't
And
about
I
fighting.
think that's what we need to provide clarity around.
We're paying an attorney for the purposes of this.
No,
So
actually,
my understanding,
please.
so my understanding of what we're doing is authorizing attorneys to help us with any legal points that need to be made. I'm not a lawyer, so we have questions. They're advising, they're not campaigning, they're not, just like they represent or help us with other legal issues that go on with the district. It's the same thing as this. So this is new territory for this district. So what are some of the legal questions? Obviously, I have a document here, there's legal advice going, on otherwise as well, but what is the legal advice? They're not campaigning, we're not here to fight, but what are the legal points? Are there any legal points? And I think we have a right to know what those legal points are. I'm not an attorney, so my understanding is if there is any legal proceedings that go on with that, then they could be involved with it. Legal proceedings are different to me than a levy. So if there's a legal proceeding, you don't want me going in, obviously, talking on behalf of with other lawyers, but that's what they're here for. I mean, and they have, and I'm with Mrs. Crowe, we have a right to try to understand what are the legal points that are going on. So that's what I'm looking at. I don't, like I said, we're not, as far as what I'm understanding, we are not authorizing any campaigning, any statements on behalf of any lawyers or any of that, but what are some of the legal points?
Okay, I understand, but at 1 o'clock when I received this, I'm thinking, we bought you, Springer and Eckler. Why don't we just pick up the phone like we're always doing, So I guess, yeah.
So you're right, Dr. French. I mean, I think you're right. It is, this is utilizing the district's attorneys as we do for them to handle any legal issues, legal items that are appropriate to us. This is just a specific item that is perhaps unique and outside the normal scope of their business, or normal scope of their business with us. And the recommendation from legal counsel was that we make sure that the board is, supports the potential of them working in this area. And again, this is really the potential rather than, coming after the fact.
Is this a different rate? Why are they asking for this board group?
No, I think it is only because it is a different area of law than they normally, practice for us. While they are our counsel of record, and that covers lots of different things from special education through negotiations and other activities that we require their assistance. This is just an area that they've not gone into, and rather than have any question about whether they were authorized to do so, it made sense to gain specific authorization. Sure, of course. Any other?
So just to clarify, my understanding then is that we would authorize them, should this pass, to represent the Board of Education in legal proceedings regarding the repeal effort. Are there any legal proceedings going on currently regarding the repeal effort?
No.
No. So in the event that there would be some type of legal proceeding, then that's what we would be using them for, in addition to giving advice and making sure that we understand what's going on. Is that correct?
That's right.
Do we anticipate any? None going on now, do we anticipate any? I mean, since
I
we're just.
think it's appropriate to be prepared because this is a unique space for us.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Griffith, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Crowe,
Yes.
Mrs. Pope,
Yes.
Dr. French,
No.
Mrs. Robbins,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes. Item 13.02, resolution authorizing Bricker and Eckler LLP to represent the board in legal proceedings regarding the repeal effort has been approved. Now turn our attention to item 13.03, resolution requesting assistance from the OSBA Legal Assistance Fund. May I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
With a motion and a second, guess this goes to me as well. As I mentioned previously, this was, the thought process here was that we are a member of the Legal Assistance Fund. We are a dues-paying member. We authorized that at our first meeting of the year. If there is the need for legal representation relative to something to be related to an appeal or something that OSBA believes is appropriate that may impact more than one school district, and as such, it makes sense for us to seek funding from the Legal Assistance Fund to pay all or portion of any legal charges we might have. Again, this is meant to be proactive, and so that we're there in case those funds are needed. Any questions from the board?
Why do we need both?
Well, again, if I can, the first one, Dr. French, was authorizing our legal counsel to be able to do this kind of work. The second one is potentially asking for the legal assistance fund to potentially pay those bills. That's why you would ask for both, because the thought process being that the legal assistance fund is there to offset costs for legal.
Is there a maximum that they pay? Or
I think we need to figure out the details thereof. I don't know that there is a maximum. But here, what we're doing is authorizing the superintendent to go ahead and take care of the administrative details of requesting support from the legal assistance fund.
And I'd actually asked because we are a member of OSBA and we do have this as an option, my preference would be to be able to use our membership should we have questions, and we could get legal advice through this means. So it's basically two options on the table as I understand it. And my preference would be to use our membership that we pay for.
Yep.
Well, my understanding is from Mr. Hoffman that this is simply to pay for this Bricker and Eckler, right? No. That's what he just explained.
No, let me make sure that make sure we're all saying the same thing.
Assistance Fund.
The legal assistance fund is there to offset legal costs associated with an effort. And what we would be doing here is requesting that the legal assistance fund potentially pay, or at least pay a portion of any legal fees we may have related to the repeal. Period. I mean, and again, the rationale being here, we do pay into the legal assistance fund, and why would we not avail
Be
it?
using those attorneys that you're saying.
Correct. They don't have attorneys. No. The legal assistance
No, I
fund.
think, we do look to them as members of the organization for advice and guidance. I mean, if, I imagine we do have attorneys on their staff that
They do.
speak to us. And so my preference has been that if we're able to use that resource as a member organization, then that's where we would go. But I also see this as a way to fund it through the fund that's set aside.
I agree with Christy. It's a potential means of funding it without having, those within our legal assistance that we've used in the past. We've used OSBA for multiple reasons for years, mostly for professional development or legislative support or for lobbying efforts. They've been awesome for that. They've saved us hundreds of millions of dollars probably from the mandates that we minimized from our district and across the state of Ohio. But there is a legal assistance fund that could be able to help us in the situation that might be able to support us as needed. So I agree. That would be my first choice, best effort.
It has nothing to do with campaigning. And I just want to be absolutely clear about that point.
I went ahead and pulled up the application that has to be completed if we're trying to access the legal assistance fund. and it does allow for supplemental funding. Another option is for the legal assistance to provide a brief sworn opinion. The other is to actually secure consulting legal counsel. And then we have another blank that just says other. So, but it would require the signature, presumably of the board president to submit that application. So the board would be in the loop with what the intent is. It's a pretty basic application. There's
Yeah, I have a copy.
Oh, do you? Yeah,
Yes.
so you know then what you can actually get with legal assistance. I see.
Other questions, members of the board? Hearing none, Mr. Griffith, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Robbins?
Yes.
Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mrs. Sgro?
Yes.
Dr. French?
No,
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes. Item 11, or 13.03, the resolution requesting assistance to the OSB Legal Assistance Fund has been approved. Now, our next speaker is David Patrick.
Good evening, Dr. Good and board members. I'd really like to thank Dr. Kelly Coles for driving all the way up from Lebanon, Ohio. That's about a 2-hour drive just to speak for 5 minutes at our school board meeting. She feels that strongly about why the tax reduction, the passage of issue 52, is a good thing that she took her time to drive up here. And as Dr. Coles has shown, expense cutting doesn't necessarily equate to fewer services for our kids, nor does it equate to poor performance of the schools. Looking at Kelly's school, Springboro, as an example, they have 19 administrators that oversee approximately 5,500 students. If we do the math, we have, just over 14,000 students, I believe it's 14,300, somewhere thereabouts, in our district. So our student population is a little bit more than double, but not quite triple the size of Springboro's. And we have 70 administrators or somewhere thereabouts. I think a strong argument could be made for a reduction of 10 administrators. There's at least $1 million in savings. Administrators can pick up a portion of their pensions. That could equate to another $500,000 roughly in additional savings. Administrator perks, mileage and cell phones, another $100,000. Then you've got legal fees. We're paying roughly $1 million a year there. OCOS's own attorney even agrees that we're getting stiff there, and he's made mention publicly that those fees should be cut in half. The RFP group came up with a recommendation that would save several $1 million over a couple years as well. I could go on. There are numerous expense reduction ideas that have been presented, and taxpayers for Westerville schools will continue throwing more out there. Reductions that won't result in fewer services for our kids. It's like we talk to a wall though. Instead of making the right cuts, you make ones that intentionally get at the taxpayer. Busing services, increases in pay-to-play fees, for example, are just a couple. Make the taxpayer hurt a little, then promise to take that hurt away if you just give a little more money to the board or the district. Then you use it in your political ads to make the voter think that taxpayers for Westerville schools are the bad guys in this. Let's learn from folks like Dr. Coles. I would ask that the board take time and personally talk with Ms. Coles to find out what's worked. They've obviously done the right things. We're pretty much where Springboro Schools has been. I think we could learn a lot from them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Our next speaker this evening is Jim Allman. Our speaker this evening is Pete Williams.
Good evening. I'm concerned and I'm confused. Earlier tonight, a speaker alluded to the possibility that the board was going to authorize Brickler and Eckler to take legal action to knock the repeal effort off the ballot. I listened to some extensive discussion on the part of the board with regard to the resolution for Brickler and Eckler, and they said that they were authorizing Brickler and Eckler to take legal action if they thought it was necessary. Now, in the interest of openness and transparency, if it's the intent of this board to use Brickler and Eckler to attempt to knock the repeal off the ballot using legal procedures, I think it would have been your obligation to say so tonight. I am in fear that I'm going to pick up the dispatch in the next 2 or 3 days and read an article authored by Colin Brinkley that says, Westerville School Board, with the assistance of the School Board Association, legal and monetarily, has filed action to knock the repeal off the ballot. If that's your intent, I believe you should say so. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we turn our attention to board comments. Item 15. Start with Dr. Litt. Mr. Griffith, any comments this evening before we get into board comments? Board comments this evening.
Yeah, well, I do. I have something to say. Yeah, you know, I've had a young doctor that's in my Rotary Club group for the past 2 years. He's moved here, and he has been so concerned about his hometown. I mean, nearly crying to me day after day, every time we meet Rotary Club, because his hometown can't pass a levy. They're being destroyed. And it just hit me tonight what his hometown was. He's moved to Westerville, Ohio, because Springboro, his hometown, has been destroyed. I would love to ask Kelly Cole exactly a few questions. My questions would be, what has worked and what hasn't? I'd ask the other 4 board members in Springboro why they don't agree with her, because they don't. I would ask her how they were able to pass 10 mills in 2005, another 10.5 in 2008. Those are an astronomical amount of mills. And they were doing well, and all of a sudden, their community is going downhill. I would ask them if their businesses are thriving, if their houses are even selling in Springboro. I would ask them what their ESL population is, what their special education population is, what their English as a second language is, what their free and reduced lunch student level is. All of those have a major impact on communities like ours. I would ask her if she even believes in public schools helping every child reach their potential. I question that, and that's what I would ask Kelly Coles. I will be asking that community exactly what's going on, because I think that they've been struggling, and the whole state of Ohio knows it, except for Kelly. I also want to tell you about Boots and Barbecue at the Barn that's coming up. It's a group called Westerville Education Challenge, which is on the event for Boots and Barbecue at the Barn. It raises money for anti-bullying, which is a really great program in our community. It also has raised money for Jamie Balmer to come to our community. He has come in as a national speaker to speak to us about bringing our community together and healing. We've also given grants this year through Westerville Education Challenge, and those grants have gone to things like helping history and English class in our schools, high schools, bring together our senior citizens in our community. They're going to be videotaping and interviewing our senior citizens and putting together a video fair in the spring for all of us that attend. I'm really excited about that. So Westerville Education Challenge will be having its fun. If you're fun people, come to the event. Boots and Barbecue at the Barn.
Thank you, Mrs. Crowe. Other board members? Dr. French?
Yes, please. I have a lot that I'd like to say, but I'm going to just keep it simple here. Y'all remember the old statement of penny wise and pound foolish? I think maybe we are there. We want to save money, but when it comes to 45 cents, we can't afford to send out the letters of excusal for homeschoolers. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, and Dr. Good, I have sent him a couple of emails, but I received more questions and comments and calls from homeschoolers that are concerned with getting their letter of excusal and being told that we no longer send those out. The 45 cents we're saving. And do we have 100 families maybe that homeschool? That's $45 we're saving, and upsetting a number of great taxpayers. I guess I'm asking that that if that's the truth, that's the information I'm getting from families, then we need to revisit the OCR regarding the homeschooling procedure. And it has to be done within, the response to the parent, to the family, has to be done within 14 calendar days, not longer. And there's a number of other things. We cannot ask for phone numbers. We cannot ask for their email. And that's how they're being told that they will receive this letter by email. Well, some families do not want to do that, so they offer to pick it up. But somehow, for next year, let's revisit this procedure and let's get it right according to the OCR. And I can go on more about it, but let's clean it up. And I will be willing to go over it with anybody that, you know, if you want help, you want to input later on, I'd be glad to do that. I know that you probably have a different feedback, but I'm getting it from taxpayers. So let's take a look at revisiting our homeschooling procedures for these families. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. French. Other board members?
I'll keep this short. So we're off to another school year. Yay! So I think on August 13th, we were 2 days away from our opening day. So I'd like to say congratulations to all administrators, teachers, principals, as well as the parents, to another great start to a school year. There's a lot of differences this year. There's been a lot of change. We all knew it was coming, and you know, honestly, we did those changes in a short time. So I think we've done a great job in getting the schools opened and started. And I wish the kids the best of luck this year. It's kind of weird, the first year that I don't have anyone in a Westerville school, but I still drive by in the morning on my way with the buses dropping kids off. So I just want to say congratulations, and we'll keep working at this, and we have a great district, and looking forward to seeing what all the accomplishments our children will do this year. So that's what it's about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pope.
I think the only thing that I would say is, you know, I see my role as a member of the Board of Education as protecting our district and providing quality education, and that includes protecting revenue. It also includes making sure that we are spending taxpayers' dollars, including mine, my family's, we're taxpayers here, wisely. So we continue to share the austerity measures that have been taken through the years. It's not just recently, but through the years. And I'm looking forward to the report on September 10th. And I do have questions related to the repeal effort, and you know, I certainly would ask those questions of an attorney rather than, you know, just asking of someone or reading about it in a paper and not understanding it clearly. So, you know, I'm trying to understand it as best I can as we move forward, because should it go through, then it is going to impact our revenue, and we'll have a responsibility then to address our budget accordingly. But, you know, it just, it gets exhausting after a while to continue to hear people say the same things over and over again and not give this district or this administration, I'm not talking about the board, I'm talking about the administration, any type of credit whatsoever for what they've done. And they've done quite a lot. So I hope that you come back on September 10th and you're here to take a look and listen to the presentation on austerity and what has been done and the operational efficiencies that have been gained. And you know, I would encourage you to keep coming and asking good questions rather than making assumptions. But ask those questions and keep open minds and be willing to change your mind occasionally, as we are. So again, continue the dialogue. I would appreciate that. And I see body language in the audience, you know, and people shaking their heads, but that tells me that you're not willing to listen to another point of view, and that's disappointing. We're certainly here willing to listen to yours.
Thank you, Mrs. Robbins. I'm going to try and hit some of the questions that were asked. Before I do, you know, I think it was Mr. Krinsky who talked about sign stealing, and I want to hit that head on. I think it's very, you know, our community is going to go through another, you know, ballot issue this fall, and sign stealing and, you know, lying and disrespect. Those are all unacceptable from anybody. I don't care whether you're for or against the repeal, regardless of your perspective there. Civility is a requirement, right? You know, that we talk about the Westerville way on a regular basis. Every board meeting we talk about the Westerville way and the word of the month. And, you know, we need to model that behavior in all that we do. And so we need to make sure that we are, when we operate in the community, that we are operating at the highest level. You know, it's okay to disagree. Obviously, we do that here, you know, and that's fine. But we have to disagree civilly. We have to disagree with the facts and honesty behind it. And I expect that from everybody in this community, everybody. And I know that the folks that I will interact with, you know, that I will do my best to enforce that, and I would expect that to be the way that we all operate, because at the end of the day, we're the adults. We have to model the behaviors that we expect in our children. If they don't see it from us, who are they going to see it from? So thank you for calling that out, Mr. Krinsky, and it's absolutely critical that we continue to operate in that manner. You asked about I love Romney and I love Obama, where I don't know the board policy that prohibits I love Obama or I love Romney, not for students. And so I think that, you know, wear with pride. You know, it is part of our great democracy. Mr. Rankin talked about saluting the flag, saying the Pledge of Allegiance. You know, being immersed in our democracy is also one other way that we can honor this great country that we live in. You know, Mrs. Crowe talked about Kelly Coles. You know, if they're doing good things, if there are good things going on, let's learn about them. You know, we're all about continuous improvement. I think we have demonstrated a significant amount of continuous improvement over the years. If there are more opportunities, we should be looking towards them. Mr. Krinsky had a couple others. Final version of the teacher contract. I don't know where we stand on that. I'm sure that there are I's dotting and T's crossing, but I expect it'll be soon, if it's not already available. And as anybody who looks at our district website, we do publish our contracts and our administrative agreements with all our employee groups. So I assume that as soon as there's a final one, it will be, you know, posted in the same manner, because we try to be very transparent in that way. You know, there's a question about ID self-supporting. I don't have the answers there, but I don't know if anybody has that. If we don't have it tonight, that's fine. It's not meant to call anybody out, but you know, it's a question we can answer. Joe, I hope that you got all the answers you were looking for. The one that I was going to call out was that administrators do have the same health insurance. I think Dr. Good called out that the WEA has. So you know, they will be under the same terms and agreements there. And both Mr. Griffith and Dr. Good, their contracts mirror the health insurance for the WEA. I tried to get to most everything. I'm sure I missed something.
Mr. Wells' comment.
Oh, Mr. Wells' comment. Okay, yeah. I have heard that there's a member of the community who's come forward to challenge the legality. You know, as a legal question about it. And so you know, that's part of the reason I said if there's going to be a legal discussion about the ballot issue, then I want to make sure that the school district is appropriately prepared to.
But I asked that question and you said you didn't know of any. Is that right?
I said that there's not a legal, it was semantics, Dr. French. So my apologies for getting lost in semantics. But my understanding is there's a member of the community who has brought forth a legal protest, I guess is what he called it, that was filed with the Board of Elections. And so if that escalates into anything, I want to make sure that our school district is appropriate to be represented in that discussion. So, that's all.
So we're going on his side to spend money, taxpayers' money?
The point is there's a protest, and if there are legal discussions that entail from it, then I want to make sure that the district is appropriately able to be represented. Pure and simple. It would be a point of legality. Very much.